Concerns about abuse of disabled people in Victoria have led to a parliamentary inquiry.
Well, last year there were public revelations, quite horrific public revelations about abuse in the disability sector. And as a result of that, there was growing concern that systemic abuse was happening right across the disability sector, that reporting of abuse wasn't happening and that people were afraid to report abuse when it occurred. There was also concerns about the lack of investigation into those reports of abuse.
Many people with a disability really can't represent themselves properly and speak up in times of abuse. And if we have this inquiry through the parliamentary system, it means that it's open, transparent, it's publicly available, and the legislators are the ones who can change the system.
After presenting an interim report, the Family and Community Development Committee is now investigating a number of the complex and challenging issues in disability care.
Well, stage 2 of the inquiry is outlined in our terms of reference, which are in fact quite extensive. And they include looking at why abuse is not reported, how the system in Victoria as it currently stands can be improved and strengthened, particularly for people who want to report abuse but won't for a variety of reasons. It's also about looking at the service providers and preventative measures, whether their preventative measures are adequate and what can be done to strengthen those prevention measures.
The scope of the inquiry is wide-ranging.
When we look at abuse, it takes many different forms. It can be the sexual abuse, but also abuse that might be theft, and that could be between carer and client. It could be between somebody else who's involved in an organisation that may be taking advantage of one of the clients, and I think that we need to have a look at the types of abuse, see whether it's systemic in different organisations and across the state, and really work to prevent it from happening in the first place, but then if it does happen, know how to address it quickly.
The committee is urging people across Victoria to contribute to the inquiry.
Well, we would like to hear from people who have disabilities and from their families. We would also like to hear from the service providers, people who work in the disability services area, and also, of course, from the oversight and investigation bodies. And all of that information will be important evidence as we go forward to making recommendations for stage 2.
There are so many stakeholders that have a claim in the abuse inquiry, and I'd like to hear from all of those. I know the committee would be very pleased to hear from people that are clients themselves who may be able to represent themselves, their families, people who work in the system or people who have worked in the system.
The inquiry will help to identify issues that need to be addressed in the transition to the National Disability Insurance Scheme.
The NDIS is due to commence at this stage in 2016-17, so our remit is to actually look at the Victorian system during that transition period and how the systems within Victoria and the disability sector can be improved and strengthened.
As it is a parliamentary inquiry, there are measures in place to support people giving evidence and to assist people to access information about the review.
Well, all submissions to the inquiry, both public and written, will be public documents unless otherwise requested. There is an option for people who want to make submissions to ask for their submissions to be confidential and their names will be withheld. There's also the option for people to have a hearing in camera or in confidence. There's also a helpline being established to support people.
I expect the public hearings will be conducted across Victoria, certainly in the city, but in a lot of the larger regional centres as well, where there may already be fairly well established disability services and where they're easily accessible for people from smaller country towns to come and present.
The ultimate aim of the committee's work is to help prevent abuse of disabled people in Victoria.
What I hope will come out of this investigation and this inquiry is greater support for people with disabilities, particularly if they are experiencing abuse. That abuse of people with disabilities does not occur and that we have a zero tolerance approach. I would also like to see service providers have preventative measures in place that work and that people with disabilities can be confident that the Victorian disability system works well for them and that they do not have to endure any kind of abuse. People with disabilities deserve nothing less.
For more information, visit www.parliament.vic.gov.au/FCDC or phone 03 8682 2843.